In the cold and fierce ocean, giant ships work tirelessly. They quietly enter the deep sea, where each net can bring back hundreds of tons of seafood, from silver-bellied tuna to giant king crabs or bright red lobsters lurking at the cold bottom. But behind those million-dollar figures, there is a journey not for the faint of heart. The fury of the sea, sudden frost, torn nets, life and death decisions made in seconds. This is not just fishing. It is a battle of technology, experience, and courage. So how do humans do it? How do they harvest hundreds of tons of fish each season in some of the most dangerous waters on the planet? And what actually drives a multi-billion-dollar industry beneath the waves? Go discover how catching hundreds of tons of fish with giant nets at sea powers a multi-million-dollar industry. In the harshest seas on the planet, 3 natural battlefields sustain a significant portion of the global seafood industry. In the frigid north are Bering Sea, Alaska, where winter temperatures can hit 20 degrees, the sea froze and king crab boats had to weave through waves as thick as steel walls. Moving east, the waters off Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, Canada, are the domain of lobster fishermen, where cold water mixed with complex undercurrents make every pull of the cage a gamble with the ocean. And in the west, stretching along the coasts of South America and Asia Pacificus, the stage of large-scale campaigns, where dozens of tons of tuna are caught in just a few hours thanks to the precise coordination between fishermen's experience and modern sonar technology. In each sea, weather is an unpredictable opponent. Sudden force, 12 storms, thick fog obliterating the horizon, northern nights, lasting weeks without the sun in sight. In this world, the smallest mistake can cost your life. And so the people here are not just fishermen. They are silent warriors fighting every day with the ocean to sustain a multi-billion-dollar industry. To get a true sense of the extreme harshness of the Bering Sea, follow Captain Eric Hansen, who has spent more than 25 seasons hunting king crab and snow crab in these waters. Every year, for just a few short weeks, he and his crew had to face temperatures as low as 20 degrees, bitter winds that cut like knives into their skin decks that froze in just a few hours, and waves as high as iron walls that threatened to swallow everything. But in the midst of that ocean fury, the hunt for Alaska's red gold, the rare king crab, takes place. Traps weighing more than 660 pounds are baited with mackerel fitted with GPS and lowered to the seafloor more than 656 feet deep. A cage filled with mature crabs can bring in thousands of dollars, while snow crabs, smaller but with white, sweet, firm meat, are popular in Japan and Korea. It's not just a battle against the weather. It's a breathless race against time and production. If you're just a day late, other fleets will have already taken all the prime fishing spots. For Eric, each trip is a life-or-death gamble, where each cage pulled up holds not just crabs, but the hope of a multi-million-dollar harvest. The king crab harvesting technique begins with trapping. Each crab pot is baited with fish, tied to a GPS-equipped buoy, and dropped into the cold deep sea. The boat departs, leaving the traps quietly on the seabed, where the giant crabs will crawl in the darkness. After 12 to 18 hours, the ship returns. The most stressful phase begins the salvage. Steel cables are hooked to each buoy, and the hydraulic crane system quickly but carefully lifts the traps. Just one strong impact with the ship's side can break a crab's claw, significantly reducing its commercial value. Each time the cage is pulled up, there is a moment of nervous anticipation. Sometimes it is empty, sometimes it is full of hundreds of kilos of crab. Sailors in thick gloves use metal hooks to pick up each fish and place them in a container. But not all are kept. Those that are too small or are carrying eggs are released back into the ocean immediately according to federal regulations to protect the breeding stock for future seasons. The deck was slippery with thick ice, the sea wind cut like a razor, but no one was allowed to rest. Every trap, every pull hundreds of times a day. It was a silent but stressful race to gain the necessary mass for the million-dollar ship. Immediately after being sorted, the crabs are transferred to specialized saltwater tanks in the ship's hold, where the temperature is kept at a constant 0 to 2 degrees C. The ship can store up to 20 tons of live crabs in conditions that simulate the natural marine environment, ensuring their freshness until they reach port. After 5 days adrift in the icy sea, Eric Hansen and his crew collected more than 16 tons of king crab and snow crab. Some were steamed and frozen on board, while the rest were transported alive to the mainland. Each crab is the result of sweat bruises and even close calls with death, Eric said. But for us, this is more than just a job. It's a way of life. And that's just one link in the global seafood supply chain, where the cold ocean floor is humanity's silent gold mine. As Eric's ship turned toward Dutch Harbor nearly 6,000 kilometers to the east, another fleet had just set sail from the waters off Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where lobster boats were racing the ocean. In the waters off Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, lobster fishing is an industry, but also a living tradition. And here, two worlds coexist: large vessels that haul in tens of tons and small fleets family-run father to son that haul in just a few hundred a day. Follow Captain Mike Turner, who has 27 lobster seasons under his belt, to see how an industrial fishing vessel operates. On deck, hundreds of lobster traps are prepared in groups of 20 baited with herring, ready to be dropped to the seafloor at depths determined by GPS. Sonar monitors shrimp density, water currents, and even seafloor movement. After 24 hours, each cluster of traps is lifted by hydraulic crane. Shrimp are inspected individually, below about 3.25 inches type. Egg-bearing release back into the ocean. Each person on board works up to 18 hours a day. No shifts, no complaints. The qualified lobsters are immediately released into deep cold saltwater tanks, where temperature, salinity, and oxygen are strictly controlled. The sole goal to keep the lobsters healthy throughout the hundreds of kilometers of journey back to port. One such trip can yield 10 to 20 tons of live lobsters. But once you step off the steel deck and into the shallows, you'll find a different rhythm of life. Here, hundreds of fishermen still do the same thing as their ancestors: small boats, no cranes, no GPS, no sonar. Every drop point is memorized by sight, by the wind, and by the way the water flows around the rocks. They carry about 100-150 traps a day. The boats don't go far, just around reefs, rapids, and fjords. The advantage is fast, accurate, and virtually no waste. They set sail at dawn harvest and return before dusk. The shrimp are sold directly to local markets or restaurants, fresher than any industrial system can provide. Catching 200-300 fish a day is considered a success. They work less but work longer, and it is people like them who keep the fishing industry from being swallowed up by the cold chain of the global market. Two lives, one ocean, and one shared commitment to keep Canada's lobster industry alive, not just as an industry, but as a part of the country itself. Unlike the quiet traps in the fog of Nova Scotia, tuna fishing in the Pacific is a game of speed and strategy. The fish move fast, constantly changing direction and position. Only those who can truly read the ocean can keep up. To understand this art, we follow Captain Kenji Yamamoto, a Japanese fisherman of Okinawan origin with more than 30 years of drifting in the sea between the Philippines and Micronesia. For him, finding tuna schools does not simply rely on modern machinery, but also on immersing himself in the ocean, listening to each wind season, feeling each current. To catch tuna, the fastest and strongest predator in the ocean, one cannot rely on luck. This profession requires a perfect combination of experience, technology, and precision that counts for seconds. On Captain Kenji's ship, the hunt begins in the air. Once the coordinates of the school of fish are determined, the ship immediately accelerates to approach. The direction, current, and angle of the turn are all carefully calculated, because if it is just a few minutes late, the school of tuna can have gone many kilometers away. Unlike large-scale trawling, tuna are typically caught using industrial hand lines, using hundreds of single lines longer than 328 feet each attached to live or artificial bait, such as herring or squid. Fishermen stand along the side of the boat, each manning 1 or 2 fishing rods with high-speed pulleys. When a tuna, usually yellowfin or bluefin, bites the powerful pull, can rip your hands off if you don't hold on tight. The tunas, which weigh between 66 and 441 pounds, struggle violently before being brought aboard by hydraulic cranes. Once on board, the fish are rapidly cooled with ice or transferred to specialized cold storage, keeping the meat fresh and ready for high-end markets like Japan, where a sashimi-grade tuna can sell for up to $50,000. From icy Alaska to the misty Canadian coast and across the vast Pacific Ocean, the journey is a testament to how humans conquer the ocean, not with strength, but with understanding, with respect, and with the thin line between life and death. This is not just a fishing industry. It is an industry that lives and breathes with the waves and is run by people who never turn their backs on the sea.